America on the Brink, Trump's roadmap to recession, fascism, and World War III. And what got me started thinking about all this, frankly, were three articles that ran in the Financial Times over the weekend. I read them on Saturday. And one was about how there was this thing called the Dutch disease. This is, economists have this phrase, it's called the Dutch disease. And it refers to a time, early, back in the middle of the last century, when Holland discovered natural gas. And suddenly they're kind of agriculture-based manufacturing, but mostly, agriculture and cows and cheese and stuff like that. And suddenly their economy had this brand new resource and it just popped. And the consequence of that was that a small number of people basically controlled that sector. And they ended up gaining vast amounts of wealth and with it political power. And it actually damaged the Dutch economy. And that damage to the Dutch economy then led to political chaos. So, that was where I kind of started with this. And they pointed out, in fact, I believe the title of the article was something like, "Is America Experiencing the Dutch Disease?" And so that got me thinking about, the economy and all of this sort of thing. Another was about how William Colby was the CIA director during the Vietnam War era and, ran the secret bombing campaigns and stuff. His grandson is now Pete Hegseth's right-hand man. In fact, he's apparently the guy who cut off the shipping of weapons to Ukraine when Trump said, I didn't know that happened. Whether Hegseth told him to or whether he simply did it on behalf of Hegseth or what, I'm not sure anybody knows. I've read conflicting reports in the press. But anyhow, he reached out to Japan and Australia recently, and this was what this Financial Times article was all about, and it was, kind of hair on fire, and said, if China takes Taiwan, are you ready to go to war with China? Are you ready to commit to the United States? This is Japan and Australia, two of our allies. Are you ready to commit to the United States that you will go to war to defend Taiwan? And now, Joe Biden, on four different occasions, as I recall, and double check that, but I'm pretty sure it might have even been five, but I'm pretty sure it was four different times, said that he would consider going to war against China over Taiwan. To the best of my knowledge, Donald Trump has never said that. But here you've got this guy, the Colby, Elbridge Colby, I believe is his name, in the Defense Department, working for Hegseth, number two guy, or one of the number two guys, who is reaching out to our allies saying, are you ready to go to war? And that evoked, and in fact the article mentioned, this thing called the Thucydides trap. Thucydides was a Greek philosopher who came up with this theory based on history that has held for thousands of years, that when a great power begins to decline and a secondary power begins to grow and reaches the point where it can economically challenge the great power, that usually leads. And we are now at the point where China's middle class is larger than the entire population of the United States, where China has literally tens of thousands of miles of high-speed rail. We have none. China has, these gleaming brand new cities. They've got $8,000 electric cars it's just, China's just kicking ass economically. And their GDP is, as I recall, in the neighborhood of 29 trillion a year. We're 33, I think, as I recall. So they're catching up with us. They are building military equipment far faster than we are. They're doing drones. There's an amazing video out a couple of days ago. It was celebrating some Chinese holiday where they had, it was like a dragon in the sky, this giant multicolored dragon in the sky, and each little dot of light was a drone. It was a swarm of, thousands of drones that were computer controlled, interacting with each other and with the mothership, as it were, creating this dragon in the sky. Well, you could just as easily arm those drones and just take out an army with them. And there was a piece in the Wall Street Journal over the weekend about how the United States has virtually no drones. I mean, or those kinds of drones. We have none. I mean, this is what Ukraine used to take out those bombers in Russia, 3-4 weeks ago. Operation Paperclip? No, that was World War II. Whatever it was. And so anyhow, the article was like saying, asking the question, are we on the edge of the Thucydides trap? Do you trust your deodorant? Most deodorants just don't work for us working guys, but then Mando rolled into town ready to tackle all over odors before they even start. Mando created high-performance deodorant for whole body odor control. Safe for your pits, packages, and feet. Mando's science-based formula is pH optimized, capable of blocking odors before they even start. Deodorants you're used to using just mask odors or neutralize them after they form, but Mando is powered by mandelic acid, clinically proven to work all day long. Developed by doctors, it's hypoallergenic and skin safe for your sensitive parts. Use Mando all over and leave your odor worries behind. Give Mando a go and see why guys are loving it. If it's not for you, they'll gladly refund you within 60 days. Smell better longer with Mando. Get 20% off site-wide on your first Mando purchase with the code THOM, T-H-O-M, at shopmando.com. Plus, shipping is always free. That's 20% off site-wide for first-time customers with the code THOM at shopmando.com. That's shopmando.com. And so I kind of put all this stuff into my brain, and out came this article. The headlines are wild. Trump is threatening nutso tariffs against traditional trading partners, our alliances. Of course, no tariffs yet on Russia. He's demanding that our allies proclaim their willingness to go to war with China. And along with his billionaire buddies, and this is the Dutch disease, he's looting our government while immiserating small business and the American middle class. And as a result, we stand on these three kind of verges. One is an economic collapse, and I believe that we are already into it. I told you before, I'm seeing the evidence of it in subscriptions to my newsletter, in advertisers to this program. And it's not just my program. I know that, I've talked to the ad agency. It's just like, and you see the same thing on TV. When you see these ads on MSNBC or CNN for, don't drive drunk, or, eyes on the road, or whatever, you see, they're called public service announcements. When you see those, that means they couldn't sell an ad. And that's a bad sign, right? That's a sign that the country, the recession, when advertisers start withdrawing. And so you look at this stuff, and then look at the housing market right now. We've got a housing market that is in deep trouble. And the housing inventory, and again, you'll see news stories about this all the time in the press. These are all leading indicators. These are all the things that you see 2, 3, 6, sometimes 9 months before you're officially in a recession. And so what happens when countries go into recessions, and we've arguably been in a sort of recession ever since the Reagan era, at least for the working class, as salaries have exploded on the top and the salaries on the bottom have just flattened. In fact, it now takes 2 full-time salaries to provide the same lifestyle that you could do in 1980 with one. What happens when the economy like this, like what we're seeing right now, I think, is that people start demanding answers. Who did this to me? And of course, politicians are always happy to provide the answer being them. For Trump, the them is brown people, and Canada, and Mexico, and Europe, and our response is going to be tariffs. and all that kind of stuff. And this third article that I read in the Financial Times was about how World War I, how in 1914, the famous economist who advised Roosevelt, John Maynard Keynes, the British economist, basically said, you know, everything's great, but look out. And sure enough, here came this giant whack to the economy of Europe, which arguably, you know, people are still fighting over what caused World War I, but, you know, there is one strong theory that the economics played an actually very large role. This was kind of the tail end of the Industrial Revolution. And workers, and this was, you know, before you saw the widespread development of trade unions in Europe. And so people were pissed, and they were ready to go to war. And so here we are in a situation where the country's being looted by the billionaires, and Trump's big, beautiful bill was that. It's just looting. You know, I mean, they're taking another $4 trillion and putting it in their pockets and putting the bill on our children's tab. You've got Trump disrupting the international order that has kept the world safe from World War III for 80 years. And, you know, and now antagonizing China. I mean, he's just like, it's schizophrenic. One day he loves Putin, the next day he hates him. One day he loves China, the next day, and they're giving gifts to his daughter, and the next day he hates them. And it's just, this is the kind of stuff that led to World War I. And arguably to World War II as well. Of course, Hitler rose out of the ashes of the Republican Great Depression, as did Tojo. And then on top of that, you've got you've got the economic stagnation, and on top of that, you've got the rise of fascism here in the United States. You've got a counter-revolution, a revolution against the American Revolution. You've got right-wingers trying to turn the American into a neo-fascist state. And our economy, by the way, the other big thing is that our economy has been shifted away from making things, which is how you grow the wealth of a country, to moving money around. It's been financialization. This started with Reagan when he legalized stock buybacks. And what that does is it diminishes the wealth of the country, and then that further enrages the working. So I put all this stuff together and basically say the Democrats understand this. Joe Biden was trying to get us out of this. He was trying to build stuff to make things again, which would put the economy back in shape, to get unions and things, you know, to bring the middle class back. Trump is gutting all that. He's stopping all of the spending that would build the country. He's setting us up for a recession and maybe a depression. He's setting us up for, frankly, World War III. And frankly, I'm not hearing very many Democrats yelling about this stuff. So please check out my article. It's at hartmannreport.com today, calling for all of us to be speaking out about this.